Fighting games hit different offline. That's always been the case, but in various contexts. There have been countless musings, tweets, video essays, Twitch clips, and podcasts about the actual effects on gameplay. Fighting games are at their best when played in person, face-to-face, head-to-head, whatever style or term you want to use for it. This is the optimal way to engage in play for the competitive community specifically. No worrying about the netcode, connection quality, or strength, but simply playing the match. That's not to say there aren't other factors that could potentially hinder or interfere with the flow of play or even match integrity, but there's much more that you can control in an offline environment. But let's go beyond the game and discuss this in terms of the bigger picture, the community itself. The energy of fighting games, the spectacle of it all, just feel different when you experience them with other people. It's not just you, and it's not just a random feeling. There's a name for this kind of thing, and it's called CE. No, not Champion Edition, but collective effervescence. The term was coined by French sociologist Émile Durkheim and served as the basis for his greater theory of religion, most famously laid out in his 1912 book, The Elementary Forms of Religious Life. Simply put, collective effervescence, or CE, is what happens when community or society comes together and simultaneously communicates the same thought or thoughts and participates in the same action. This happens when someone or something excites the group and the group wants to rally around this thing and unify. Durkheim offers the examples of totems, physical items that represent or symbolize a group and are often present during rituals. We discuss rituals and cultural combos and how they're present within the fighting game community in order to argue for fighting game culture being a thing. Now, in addition to being one of the founding theorists of the discipline of sociology, Durkheim's approach is also one of the key influences of functionalism or structural functionalism as it relates to anthropology and sociology. Functionalism is essentially the paradigm attempting to explain social institutions as collective means to fill the needs of the individual. The essence of religion, the concept of the sacred, this phenomenon is what creates unity across religions. Durkheim describes religion as a unified system of beliefs and practices relative to sacred things. That is to say, things set apart and forbidden, beliefs and practices which unite into a single moral community. You're probably thinking, wow, Maestro, that's absolutely fascinating, but what the hell does that have to do with fighting games? Well, a lot, actually. Those beliefs and practices that unite a community, consider how we have these unspoken but commonly accepted or agreed upon rules of engagement when it comes to actually participating in play. Waiting for a turn in the rotation, establishing your intent to play by calling next, doing button checks, signaling that you or your opponent are ready before playing, etc., etc. There are certain things that are standard for most fighting games that have become commonplace no matter what type of fighting game it is. Certain events or tournaments having more prestige or significance for respective games and scenes. And more recent examples include using discords for community discussion and matchmaking, or having some sort of wiki or online resource document for game mechanics, combos, tech, and matchup info. Now, I've already discussed a lot of the ritual and performance when it comes to fighting games in my paper Cultural Combos, which is linked in the description. But what about the CE, or the moments that unify us? Well, let's go back to the spectacle of fighting games. Different things can bring us together. Regional pride, respect for a player's skill with a character, enjoying their showmanship, i.e. their performance, or simply being from the same country, as we've heard the countless USA chants that happen at tournaments. The list goes on. Your mileage may vary, but generally speaking, it feels good to be part of the crowd. Even when we're cheering for different players or characters, we're there because we all love fighting games. EVO is arguably the best example of this on a massive scale, since people from quite literally around the world congregate and make up these crowds that cheer during these moments. The Daigo parry in 2004, Justin Wong's Cyclops comeback in 2007, PR Rog in 2011, Alex Vi vs Bonchan in 2015, Li Joe in 2016, Hungry Box also in 2016, Lil Majin vs JDCR in 2018, and Arslan Ash in 2019, and many more. But these moments of CE for the FGC aren't just for these hype matches and clutch victories, but also the games themselves. Consider the reveals that took place during EVO, with perhaps the most notable being Geese Howard's reveal for Tekken 7 in 2017. Even people who didn't play Tekken or King of Fighters found themselves excited, not just because of the collaboration seeming highly unlikely, if not nearly unfathomable at the time, but because everyone else was excited. That energy is infectious, and it's very easy to find yourself caught up in the hype for games you may not even play, because it damn sure happens to me every year I attend without fail. If not for skill or for hype, then we also unite for the strange, the bizarre, and the downright hilarious. The Cell Yell during Dragon Ball FighterZ Finals at EVO 2018, the 3-2-1 Shoryuken almost every time Ono had an announcement to make on Capcom's behalf, and the 2014 sing-along to Indestructible for the Ultra Street Fighter 4 Top 8 intro. Now, EVO isn't the only place where moments like this happen, but it is often the largest example, and perhaps among the easiest for most people to find who are in and outside of the FGC. You could search EVO moments and find a plethora of videos to watch. There's also other smaller but still significant examples of CE, and how they relate to the gameplay we're witnessing and following. When the crowd starts chanting A in rhythm with the hits of a combo, or mimicking the character's mannerisms and lines during a cinematic, like raising the roof with Rufus's Ultra in Street Fighter 4, or when the crowd at Climax of Night would yell reload in time with the Eltnum combos. Our reactions to combos in supers are another great example, with Marvel having plenty of these moments. Chances are the moment I said Marvel, there's already a couple players or characters who have already come to mind. Marlon Pie's swag combos, Combo Fiend's Bionic Arm, pretty much any double snap combo in Marvel 2, and the now infamous Iron Man Infinite. There's also times where the crowd will literally start singing or humming a character's theme or stage music. I think one of the most bizarre but undoubtedly FGC moments came once again during a Marvel vs. Capcom 2 set. During the Justin Wong vs. Sanford Kelly exhibition at NEC 15, the crowd sang along to Ricky Martin's Living La Vida Loca, which was the custom music selection for the carnival stage. It sounds ridiculous, and it kinda was, but everyone was into it. So why am I talking about collective effervescence? Well, it's because the FGC and the world itself are lacking it right now. Concerts, sporting events, festivals, large religious gatherings, these things aren't happening at normal capacities. Or at the very least, I really hope they aren't. If you're in an area where there's a lot of cases, there's some outliers, sure, but overall, the majority of the world is still very much fighting and trying to survive a global health crisis. There's been a lot of talk about how the FGC is different in an almost universally online capacity, but you can say the same for all those aforementioned things. These are where collective effervescence is at its peak and easiest to notice. Crowds chanting and cheering, people embracing over their sports team scoring or winning a big game, crowds singing along at concerts and festivals, people joining in worship or prayer. There's a reason why just being present for these moments, or even simply witnessing them, gives you a very visceral feeling and often results in chills or goosebumps. Durkheim's theory behind the phenomenon was that being together and unifying, even for those moments, was an essential need for the self and society. When moments of CE happen, an essential need is being fulfilled, and thus you get that rush of endorphins, or that high. These are the moments we remember fondly, when we can recall exactly where we were in time. The adrenaline, the endorphins, the things that make us feel alive and part of the community. The moments that make us say, this is why I play fighting games. This is why I'm part of the FGC. It's one of the things that makes us, well, us. And honestly, these are the moments I miss the most. Collective effervescence doesn't just happen on grand scales. It can happen when you're in unison with the homies and cracking jokes while playing or just watching matches together. It's not impossible for these moments to happen virtually through Zoom calls and video chats and Discord channels, but in person, it hits different. The sensation is much stronger, the bond is much stronger, that sense of community is there, it becomes much less them and much more us. So if you aren't getting the same feeling from fighting games despite your best efforts to enjoy net play, it's not just you. I can't wait to experience these moments again, but until that opportunity comes, please stay safe, look out for each other, move with caution and purpose. Mask up, wash your hands, and remember that collectively staying apart will allow us to collectively come together. Thanks for listening, and GG's. We'll run it back soon.